They lie in pits piled on top of each other. They've had no food or water since they've been captured, often days and weeks before this day. People gather to watch them kicked, burned with cigarettes, and even be skinned alive. They are decapitated in front of an audience, which includes small children, for entertainment. Their mouths are sewn shut while they're still alive, so people can take pictures with them. No other vertebrate animal is subject to such thoughtless or inhumane treatment. What are they? They're rattlesnakes, and they are unfortunately part of a rattlesnake roundup. These snakes were all dead by the end of the roundup. Melissa Amarillo, co-founder of Advocates for Snake Preservation and an expert in rattlesnake behavior, states, "Rattlesnakes rattle when they are terrified, not angry or preparing to attack as most people think. The sound of rattling at these roundups is in fact 1,000 snakes screaming." Rattlesnake roundups have been around for decades, and some have evolved into huge events. The most notable is the Sweetwater, Texas roundup, which is the largest and one of the oldest in the U.S. Today, I'd like to talk to you about why the practices in these rattlesnakes roundups need to change. Not only are they exceedingly cruel, but because the methods and practices used for collection also have harmful effects on the environment. Let's start with a little history on the roundups. Rattlesnake roundups originated west of the Mississippi beginning in 1939 in Okeen, Oklahoma. Soon they spread to Texas, New Mexico, and other western states. These roundups focus primarily on the western diamondback rattlesnake. East of the Mississippi, roundups began in Geneva, Alabama in 1958 after a newspaper article detailed a technique for evicting rattlesnakes from gopher tortoise burrows by blowing gasoline fumes into them. These roundups focus on the world's largest rattlesnake, the eastern diamondback. What began as excitement and adventure, which was the initial justification for these roundups, soon became an effort to eradicate the species locally. Today, economic motives drive the roundups. Sweetwater alone has an impact of more than $7 million on their local economy. Let's take a look at the methods of collection and how that impacts more than just the rattlesnakes. The most common method for collecting rattlesnakes, both western and eastern diamondback, involves spraying gasoline into the ground. For the western diamondback, they overwinter in underground dens, and the collections start in the spring before they emerge. Hunters spray gasoline into the dens towards the back to drive the snakes out. Many harmless snakes are also caught in this process. One study showed for every 100 rattlesnakes captured, 40 harmless snakes were also caught. This method destroys the habitat for snakes and other creatures. Impact on lizards, toads, and invertebrates has been proven through experiments and studies. One such study was conducted by the Department of Biology at the University of Texas at Arlington, which showed various levels of harm that gassing had to other creatures, up to and including death. Estimates are that up to 350 other species of wildlife are negatively impacted by the gassing. Eastern diamondbacks are gassed out of gopher tortoise burrows. Even when not using gas, as it is now illegal in many states, they are dug up, which destroys the burrow for the gopher tortoise and any other animal that might use it. Gasoline interaction is harmful. Inhalation of vapors can cause nervous system damage, brain damage, convulsions, and cardiac arrest. Gasoline is especially harmful to amphibians and invertebrates. What goes in the ground ends up in groundwater and contaminate and also poison the springs. Cooked rattlesnakes that are exposed to gas are served to humans who eat them at these festivals. I've already described the terrible method of collection for the roundups, but that is only the beginning of the horror these animals suffer. These images and practices may be disturbing, and I do apologize for that, but it is important to see the incredibly brutal way the rattlesnakes are treated. Rattlesnakes collected for roundups are subjected to a level of brutality that would never be acceptable for another vertebrate animal. They are kept in overcrowded quarters for days and weeks with no food or water. The snakes on the bottom are often crushed. They are frozen for up to 2 hours to render them immobile or filled with liquor to sedate them. They are beheaded, skinned alive, kicked and burned with cigarettes, and have their rattles severed while they are still alive. They have their fangs removed and their mouths sewn shut so that people can handle them and take pictures. It is a national embarrassment that our society continues to celebrate the unregulated collection and wanton killing of wildlife. Nothing epitomizes this practice more than rattlesnake roundups. I cringe at the spectacle that takes place at these events, states David A. Steen, an assistant research professor in the Department of Biological Sciences at Auburn University. Dr. Steen studies wildlife ecology in the southeastern United States and beyond. You may not like it, but we do need snakes, even rattlesnakes. Rattlesnakes are an important part of the ecosystem. They prey on rodents and insects and other pests. Snakes are natural pest control. Removing one rattlesnake from the environment means several hundred rodents won't be eaten. Instead, they will go on and produce more rodents. This can quickly cause an imbalance. Venom is used in drugs to treat diabetes, high blood pressure, and to prevent strokes and other illnesses. Researchers are still working with snake venom to produce life-saving medications. If a species becomes extinct, we lose that possibility forever. While most people fear or even loathe snakes, they are an important part of the ecosystem. You may not want to cuddle up to them, but if they disappeared, life as we know it would cease to exist. Rodent populations would explode, spreading disease. Animals that eat snakes would lose a food source, potentially endangering their population. Any medical benefits would be lost to us forever. If any other animal was treated the way these snakes are at the roundups, there would be a huge outcry. These animals feel pain and fear, and there's no humanity in barbaric practices for entertainment. Both the AZA and ZAA have taken stated positions against the roundups. But what can you do? You may not even live in a state that has roundups. There are groups working to change the practices at these roundups. Rise Against Rattlesnake Roundups can be found on Facebook. Advocates for Snake Preservation, or ASP, is a nonprofit organization dedicated to changing the way people view snakes and who are campaigning to end the capture and slaughter of rattlesnakes for roundups. Most people are probably not aware that this happens every spring. Spread awareness through social media and word of mouth. Contact lawmakers, sign petitions, and encourage education and conservation to be the focus at these festivals. It is time that we end the barbaric practices and take an example from the annual San Antonio Rattlesnake Festival, which is an educational festival with no snake hunting and promotes conservation. In the words of Philip Arena, an awarded scholar and herpetologist, every rattlesnake that is killed will, in the long term, have an impact on the stability of ecosystems. And future generations of humans who look back at history, stunned that such environmental abuse was allowed to continue unabated.